What if Bigfoot crossed into Connecticut in July of 2026? On July 5th, 2026, at 1:45 in the morning, Kevin Klemas was driving home from a friend's cabin in Voluntown, Connecticut. The friend lived on the edge of Pashog State Forest, 27,000 acres of dense Connecticut woodland, the largest state forest in the state. The night had been unremarkable. They had played cards. They had not drunk. Klemas left around 1:30. The road was a 2-lane rural route. Tree canopy blocked the sky. The pavement had no streetlights. His high beams were the only light on the road. At 1:45, something stepped into his lane. Klemas told the Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization 6 days later that the figure stood 8 to 8.5 feet tall, massive shoulders, arms long enough to hang to the knees, coarse, matted, brown, greasy hair, a head slightly coned at the top, a distinct jawline, close enough for Klemas to read the details, far enough to see the full wingspan, 8 to 9 feet, from fingertip to fingertip. Klemas slammed the brakes. 2 slow steps carried the figure across the lane. Then it disappeared into the trees on the far shoulder. Subscribe for a news story every night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's get into tonight's case. What Klemas described is not a bear. The shoulders were too wide. The height was too tall. The gait was upright, not on all fours. The head was coned, not pointed like a snout. The arms were too long. The proportions were wrong for a black bear, Connecticut's only native large mammal that might, in a panic, look tall. It is not a moose either. Connecticut does not have a breeding moose population. Last confirmed moose sighting in the Voluntown area was more than 15 years ago, and moose do not stand 8 feet tall on their hind legs. What Klemas described was not an animal in any obvious distress. It crossed the road with what Klemas called deliberate, measured steps. It is not a person in a suit. Klemas is a construction worker. He has seen people in work coveralls at night. Taller than any person he had ever seen, the figure also had longer arms. The face was wrong. The hair was wrong. Klemas told the BFRO investigator that he had not slept well in the days after the sighting. He told the investigator he had pulled over 3 times on the drive home to check his mirrors. Klemas was sober, rested, not on his phone. He told the BFRO investigator that he had not believed in Bigfoot before the sighting. He had watched the shows, he said, and rolled his eyes the way most people do. After the road, that reflex stopped. Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization classified the report as Class A on July 7, 2026. Class A is the highest credibility rating the organization gives. To earn it, a report needs a clear sighting, a credible witness, and physical details that match the established pattern. The BFRO assigns a Class A designation to a small percentage of the reports it receives each year. Pashog State Forest sits in the eastern corner of Connecticut in New London County. 27,000 acres of unbroken woodland, swamp, ridge, and bog make up the largest state forest in the state. The forest is contiguous with the Pashog State Forest in Rhode Island and connects via Greenway to the Arcadia Management Area and the North Woods of Rhode Island. Combined, the Greenway is more than 200,000 acres of low-density forest. This is not empty land. Roads cut through it, trails wind across it, gravel and dirt 2 tracks that are open to the public weave between the trees. A campground sits inside the boundary. Seasonal hunting for deer, turkey, and bear is allowed. Cell coverage exists in some areas and disappears in others. Timber crews have logged the land. Connecticut Deep has mapped it in full. Until very recently, none of that mapped acreage was a documented Bigfoot territory. Bigfoot sightings are heavily concentrated in the Pacific Northwest, Washington, Oregon, Northern California, British Columbia. Most Bigfoot researchers treat the Pacific Northwest as the species' home range and treat sightings elsewhere as outliers, misidentifications, or hoaxes. The pattern is so consistent, it has shaped an entire research tradition. Connecticut is outside the home range, far outside, on the other side of the country. Different climate, different forest type, different wildlife community, different indigenous Bigfoot folklore traditions. Pacific Northwest traditions describe a tall, hairy, forest-dwelling hominid in oral histories that go back generations. New England traditions describe something else: the Wendigo, the wood hags, the hitchhiker, the dogman, the stone thrower. The two traditions do not overlap. Klimas saw a Bigfoot. The Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization classified it as a Bigfoot. The forest it was seen in does not match the Bigfoot home range. Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization is the largest civilian Bigfoot research group in North America. Founded in 1995, the BFRO maintains a database of every credible sighting it has received. Investigators are assigned to follow up on reports. Reports are classified using a 4-tier system, Class A, B, C, and D, based on the quality of the evidence and the credibility of the witness. For Class A, a clear sighting is required. So is a witness who is not known to the organization as a hoaxer. The third requirement: physical details that match the established Bigfoot pattern. That pattern includes a bipedal gait, a large body size, dark hair covering most of the body, no visible clothing, no visible tail, a face that is flat or slightly coned, and a behavior that is non-aggressive but avoids contact. Report number 81270. The Klimas report meets the pattern on every point. The investigator who took the report flew to Connecticut from the Pacific Northwest. On-camera interview took place at a new London County location that has not been publicly disclosed. Lasting more than 4 hours, the interview cross-checked Klimas's account against the physical evidence: the road, the sight lines, the timing, the phase of the moon, the weather. The investigator's conclusion: the report was credible. One of 24 full-time investigators the organization maintains handled the Klimas case. None of the investigators are paid. They cover their own travel. They file reports as volunteers. Klimas's was filed on July 7, 2026, 2 days after the sighting. The full report is not public. The BFRO does not release the names of witnesses to the public. The organization protects the privacy of the people who report sightings. The full report is held in the BFRO database, where it can be cross-referenced by investigators in future cases. Patterns of similar reports, same geographic area, same physical description, same time of year, strengthen the data set. The home range question has occupied the BFRO since the organization's founding. Officially, the home range is not defined. Inferred from the cluster of credible reports, the implied home range is the Pacific Northwest. Outsider reports from outside the Pacific Northwest cluster are not rare. The BFRO receives reports from every state in the Union. They are concentrated in forested regions: the Appalachians, the Ozarks, the Great Lakes region, the Northeast, the Southeast. Outside the Pacific Northwest, the reports thin out. Class A designations are rare. Hoaxes, misidentifications, and stress hallucinations make up a larger share. Klimas is the first Class A report the BFRO has received from Connecticut in more than a decade. His is also the first Class A report from the new London County area ever recorded in the BFRO database. It is one of fewer than 20 Class A reports the organization has received from anywhere east of the Mississippi in the last 10 years. So the pattern matters. It says Bigfoot is a Pacific Northwest phenomenon. It says East Coast sightings are misidentifications, hoaxes, or outliers. The pattern has been the BFRO's working assumption for the organization's entire history. Klimas does not fit the pattern. His report comes from a sober, rested, working-class witness who did not believe in Bigfoot before the sighting, sat on camera for 4 hours of cross-examination, and reported to the BFRO within 48 hours. If Klimas's report had been filed from Washington or Oregon, it would be added to the database without comment. The fact that the report is from Connecticut is the only thing that makes it unusual. The Climas report did not stay inside the BFRO database for long. First to cover the sighting was Fox News on July 10, 2026. Their segment ran for 3.5 minutes, used the BFRO's official press release, did not show Climas's face, and used a Pacific Northwest Bigfoot photo as the visual. News Nation ran a longer segment on July 15, 2026. 6 minutes long, the News Nation piece was the first to use a still frame from the BFRO on-camera interview. Climas was not named. The Class A classification was confirmed. The segment aired on the national cable schedule. Hollywood Life ran a feature article in early August 2026. Most read English-language article about the sighting. It has been shared more than 3 million times across social platforms. A different tone from the cable segment's viral mystery rather than wildlife report runs through it. The headline asks if the East Coast Bigfoot is a new animal, a new population, or a new wave of hoaxes. Coverage so far has a shape, and the shape is familiar. A real event happens in a real place. The event gets reported to a credible research organization. The research organization verifies the report. A news outlet picks up the story. A larger news outlet picks it up from the smaller one. A viral outlet picks it up from the larger one. The story becomes a cultural artifact. The story gets debunked, then redebunked, then partially redebunked, then the debunking itself becomes a cultural artifact. The same shape shows up in the Pascagoula abduction case, the Mothman sightings, the Phoenix Lights, the Betts Sphere, the Hopkinsville Goblins. It is the way anomalous events become cultural facts in the 21st century. The Climas report is at their second stage of that shape. It is credible. It is being amplified. What comes next is the amplification. Climas is not the only Bigfoot report in Connecticut. 22 unverified reports from the state sit in the BFRO database, filed by witnesses who did not pursue their sightings to a formal investigation. The reports come from New London County, Tolland County, Windham County, Litchfield County, and Hartford County. No single area dominates. 3 publicly posted reports from Connecticut round out the file. Older than the Climas case, they come from witnesses who chose to make their accounts public. None of the 3 is Class A. 2 are Class B. 1 is Class C. They describe figures that match the Bigfoot pattern in some ways and not in others. Shorter heights, different hair textures, sightings at different times of day. Most active area in the state is the New London County cluster. 5 of the 22 unverified reports come from there. Spanning 15 years, the 5 reports are not the work of a single hoaxer. Common witness? No. Common physical description? No. 2 of those unverified reports are from the Poshog State Forest area itself, filed in the late 2000s by witnesses who were hiking the forest's eastern trails. Heights and builds matched the Bigfoot pattern, but the coned head and the long arms were not in the descriptions. The BFRO investigator who handled Climas's report reviewed the prior New London County cases. No connection was found. A pattern was sparse, geographically clustered, strong enough to note, not strong enough to be conclusive, not strong enough to dismiss either. Kevin Climas drove home from a friend's cabin in Voluntown, Connecticut, on the night of July 5, 2026. Something stepped into his lane. He slammed his brakes. He pulled over 3 times on the way home to check his mirrors. Before the sighting, he did not believe in Bigfoot. Now he does. Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization classified the report as Class A. The BFRO investigator flew to Connecticut, spent 4 hours on camera with Climas, cross-checked the report against the physical evidence, and filed on July 7th. The full report sits in the BFRO database. The full report is not public. Fox News covered the report on July 10th. News Nation on July 15th. Hollywood Life in early August. The story is at the second stage of the shape that anomalous events follow in the 21st century. It will keep moving through the shape, bigger, smaller, debunked, redebunked. Then the debunking itself becomes a cultural artifact. What Klimas saw will not change. Neither will what he told the BFRO investigator, the 4 hours of cross-examination, the Class A designation, the road, the lane, the figure that stepped into the lane at 1:45 in the morning, the brake lights that flared red, or the slow walk that took the figure across the lane and into the trees. Subscribe for a new story every night at 8 p.m. Never miss a case. What if Bigfoot crossed into Connecticut in July of 2026? The question is not whether Bigfoot is real. The question is whether Bigfoot is somewhere the pattern says it should not be. The pattern says the Pacific Northwest. The witness says Connecticut. The BFRO says Class A. The trees say nothing. Tomorrow the trees will still be there. So will the road. So will the forest. The question is what the forest holds, what the forest has always held, and whether what the forest holds is the kind of thing the pattern can describe. Patterns get built from reports like Klimas's. They get built from Class A designations like Klimas's. They get built from media waves like the one Klimas's report has started. The pattern is what the BFRO uses to decide what is real. The pattern has just been asked to make room for Connecticut. The pattern has not yet answered.